Welcome, IT changemakers, to the DEX Show with Tim Flower and Tom McGrath. Let's get into it.
Hello, everybody. Happy New Year. Welcome back to Reality Bytes. It is, of course, the first show of 2023. We are refreshed, revitalized, excited about the year ahead. Indeed, we got some very cool plans and announcements that we're going to be unveiling in the next few weeks. But first of all, we're going to have a little look ahead at the year to come, at what we think is going to feature in that year to come, and we're going to meet our panelists and hear some of those predictions momentarily. But first of all, of course, let me welcome back to Reality Bytes my main man, Tim Flower. How you doing, Tim? Happy New Year, man.
Tom, Happy New Year. Great to be back, re-energized, after a blur. I mean, even think back a little bit, 2020, 2021, 2022. It all feels like it was the same year. It's all kind of muddied together. So I'm really looking forward to looking forward.
Did you have some time off? Did you do anything pleasant? I'm sure you had a little time off.
Yeah,
how much?
The last week of the year is always, unless you're a sales rep, it's always the slowest week of the year.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I had some nice time with family. I hope you did too.
Yeah, it's had a terrific long break. Good. And as I say, let's welcome the panelists. First of all, welcome Oriana and Happy New Year.
Hello, Happy New Year.
Welcome to Dina and Happy New Year to you too.
Happy New Year.
Last but not least, Sam Holzman. Welcome back. You're going to be our main predictor, our Mystic Meg, as we say in the UK, our crystal ball for the Reality Bytes today. How's it going?
Very good. Happy New Year. I'm happy to be in the driver's seat for the first podcast back.
Love it. And so people know, we've not just randomly asked you to pull together a list of predictions. You are already pre-armed because you're working on a trends book for the year. Is that right, mate?
That's right. Yeah, I've been doing a lot of research, looking into kind of the landscape and the various trends that are around the corner. So I'm ready to share a couple of them today.
Let me ask what your batting average is here, Sam, because I know you did a trends book in 2022, quite late in 2022, which wasn't entirely your own fault, of course, but it was a kind of mid-year trends prediction book. But nonetheless, have you had a look over your shoulder? Do you know how many of those transpired in retrospect?
Yes, I will say my batting average is pretty solid. I didn't have any predictions that proved to be quite silly or anything. So I think we have a pretty good batting average and a pretty good idea of what's coming around the corner, because a lot of it is trends that are should sound familiar but are kind of taking new shape as we progress into the new year. So we'll see.
Nicely put. Now we're going to get you properly on record in your own voice making these predictions. We will, all being well with Reality Bytes and the DEX Show, come 2024, we will be, listening again to them and properly examining what that batting average really looks like. But having filled you, no doubt, with trepidation now about this future judgment, let's roll into your first trend prediction, Sam. Give it to us, man.
Yes. So a lot of these trends are kind of tied together by kind of a larger trend, which I would categorize as IT's strategic attempts to kind of reduce costs and do more with less in the face of a looming recession.
Sounds sensible.
So that's kind of the umbrella over which a lot of these trends are kind of being looked at. But I can get into a few of the specifics here. The first one of which being related to automation. Every year when you're talking about trends and predictions in the technology space, automation is obviously going to play a major role in those. But to get more specific, this year moving ahead, one trend that we're seeing is how businesses are using automation, and specifically businesses are turning to automation for two main causes. One, to really boost efficiency, and also to combat talent shortages. Mm-hmm. Over recent years, there's been a lot of talk as automation has evolved. There's been some anxiety over whether automation is going to replace, human interactions, human roles, And what we're seeing kind of moving ahead now that a lot of new automation technology has emerged and kind of evolved, we're really seeing that automation is being used right now and moving forward to kind of find that sweet spot between um, people and technology. So automation right now provides a real opportunity for companies in really any industry to do more with less, as I said earlier, which is really important right now as businesses are kind of navigating a talent shortage and also some kind of budgetary restraints due to a possible recession. So right now we're seeing that kind of in-person and human roles are still very important, but there's some inefficiency issues, and so companies are looking towards automation to kind of say, how can we make sure that the roles people are doing, they're doing them as efficiently as possible, and what kind of more repetitive tasks or things that we might not have the staff to perform, how can we use automation to fill those gaps rather than the conversation, a few years ago, people saying, oh, is this job going to become obsolete because of automation? Now it's really about kind of using automation to support the people that you do have, especially in the wake of some of the kind of financial challenges moving forward.
I love it. And a question then to kick off the automation chat for our distinguished panelists, and I include you in that, Tim. What are the most significant new or relatively new forms of IT automation that panelists think are really revolutionary, really, really impactful, particularly in the kind of context that Sam's describing here?
The one that stands out for me, and I guess you could maybe call it a blend of automation and AI, is this whole Chat GPT. I'm not anywhere near an expert on the subject, but looking at it and the capability that it has to automate things is, I think, really worth digging into and figuring out where that's going to fit in enterprise IT.
I don't know that I have a specific technology, but maybe I have another concept that I think is super relevant that I'm thinking about a lot, which is this idea of the last mile of automation. And for anybody not familiar, it's this idea that basically there's that space in between what automation can do and what you need a human to do. And that line is always shifting. So for example, with ChatGPT, it's amazing at coming up with content, but you really need a human to look at it and verify it because, among other things, it makes very authoritative mistakes, right? So you need an expert reviewer to look at it and say, okay, we can correct this here and here, because otherwise we're going to produce bad content. And that's always going to be sort of the role of the human, right, is to check the machine. But going back to what we were saying earlier about, repetitive tasks, things that take a lot of time and a lot of energy, and especially boring stuff takes a lot of energy, right, psychologically speaking. The idea that we can use automation and technology to shift the work that people are doing to that sort of more creative problem-solving work and away from the repetitive tasks. I think that's what's really exciting, and also where we see this possibility of really focusing that last mile where it's most impactful, right? And I do think that there's a lot more discussions to be had about where is that heading, where are those lines shifting. But I think a lot of the consensus that I've seen from people looking at the applications of things like automation, and especially AI in automation, is that we're never really going to get rid of that last mile. We're just going to shift it into new domains that maybe we can't even anticipate yet.
I think that's a great point, Oriana. It's a couple of things. It's the whole trust but verify concept, right? It's automation, and this is a drum that I've been beating for a long time. Automation is not synonymous with an easy button. It doesn't mean that you can just come in and click a button and all your problems go away. You've got to have that validation, verification. The article that I read most recently on this was a large auditing and consulting company had done weeks worth of work for a customer developing a strategy. And they put that strategy in the context of a question and posed it to a chat GPT and had a very similar outline in a matter of minutes. So the difference here, the thing that they needed to focus on was without the week's worth of effort from humans, they would have nothing to trust the automation and what was developed in a matter of minutes, and would have very likely had to do a similar round of validation. But the fact that you can get content in an authoritative way that forms a basis for future work, I think is going to become more and more mainstream as the trust grows.
Yeah, and I think it really puts the emphasis on having people who have the skills to do that
Right.
kind of critical thinking, analysis, verification.
I love it, and I want to pick up maybe on something else that Sam mentioned there, which is that for years there was a kind of an ultra pessimistic view of automation, as there is sort of across the economy at the moment, but it's going to put so many people out of work and such like. But arguably, what you're seeing here is an evolving sweet spot whereby, within IT specifically, I mean, whereby responsibilities, pressure only increase year upon year upon year. And the thing that doesn't increase, and really can't increase because budgets are as they are, is human resources. Your ability to build out your team to cope with this expanding expectation. Mm-hmm. And this is really where automation has to step in, particularly in a year where we expect those budgets to remain static at best and perhaps become even more straitened.
I'll give you an example. Going back to early days of my career, when I first started at the Hartford, they were building PCs one at a time. It took a tech a day or 2 days to build one PC. And when I got hired on, my first job that I took on my own was to automate some of that. And I got so much negative feedback. Tim, why are you not building as many PCs as other people? What are you doing with all your time? But in a very short amount of time, we were.
What were you doing? What were you doing, Tim?
Playing cards. Once the automation hit our technicians, we didn't get the negative feedback of, oh my God, this is going to put me out of work. We got, holy cow, I can build 100 machines at a time now instead of one at a time. So the automation, bringing automation to bear in the enterprise does nothing but benefit the people, not only the technicians that are performing the work, but now they got 100 people who can receive their PCs faster than one at a time. So, I looked at kind of the future vision of 2023 and trends in that concept of what's old is new again. It's the same old problems, but automation will continue to play a role in solving the problems that have been plaguing us for a long time.
Love it, and I'm gonna put a link down in the show notes to Honeywell's presentation, Experience Everywhere. They did some really, really incredible things with automation and an absolutely sort of static team size. So, do check that out after you've listened to the show. Excellent first prediction, I think, Sam. I don't think you're going to be looking ridiculous come next January regarding that one. But let's hear your second Mystic prediction.
Yeah, so the second one here, staying on the technology side of things, has to do with another technology that is very frequently brought up, especially over the past couple of years in terms of trends and predictions for coming years, and that is cloud computing technology. I have some statistics here from Gartner, one being that Gartner forecasts that in 2023, worldwide public cloud spending will grow 20.7% to total $591.8 billion. So that's a significant increase. But what we're seeing in terms of trends with cloud technology is the emergence of what's being called industry cloud platforms, which a definition from Gartner on industry cloud platforms would be solutions that are designed to meet the specific needs of vertical industry segments that aren't really adequately serviced by kind of general cloud solutions. And just another statistic to support that, Gartner predicts that by 2027, more than 50% of enterprises will use these industry cloud platforms. So basically, the trend being that cloud computing is not only evolving in terms of kind of capacity and capabilities, but it's becoming much more targeted and even segmented with those capabilities. So rather than kind of these big overarching cloud solutions that are used by a lot of companies, we're seeing these solutions emerge that speak to the specific needs of certain industries. So, healthcare companies might have specific solutions that are really tailored to their needs, and that kind of relates a little bit to the cost and efficiency side of the equation, in the sense that companies are spending so much on these cloud solutions, but when they're kind of more general and overarching, a lot of those capabilities that they offer are either not really meeting the specific needs of the company, or they're spending on things that they don't necessarily need in terms of capacity. So we're kind of seeing cloud technology evolve into a much more kind of specified and targeted industry focused group of solutions, rather than these kind of big general solutions. So I found that interesting as we look ahead and into the next year.
Love it, Sam, and I particularly like your and every American's pronunciation of Gartner. So if it sounds like Gardner, that's always something that amuses
right.
me. But the well-known market research firm Gardner. But it is, however, a great trend. And just a note to listeners, Tim and I, our first show of the year, released last week now, basically covers sort of healthcare IT challenges specifically, so kind of relevant to that vertical specific theme that you brought up there. Who would like to go first on commenting on this particular trend?
I can go. So before the pandemic, there were a lot of resistances from different kinds of sectors and customers to go to cloud. And they were like, no, we're okay with controlling our data centers and data points on-prem. However, post the pandemic or during the pandemic, there was a huge increase of going to cloud, irrespective of what solution you're using. You want to see if there is an alternative or a cloud version. So the IT teams would get to be able to control it more, have more visibility, etc., not having to go specifically to a site and work on whatever that needs to be worked on or configurations. So that huge increase will keep on going as people now are working on hybrid, and they see the potentials and capabilities. I'll merge the two topics that Sam was speaking about, having AIs, automations, and workflows automatically created to minimize the amount of effort that the human does every day. So we hand over a little bit of what we do to AIs and the workflows, so we can get to have more efficient time to do more smart solutions, and actually look into creating more or more enhanced ways of doing experience at any point in any given situation. Back to the cloud topic, having this customization bit and being able as a customer from any kind of aspect to customize the cloud space that you have, this is becoming a huge and topic with most of our customers, and everybody's seeking to make sure that, like you mentioned, for the healthcare or for banking, etc., different kind of specifications per industry would require a different kind of security demands and features in the cloud.
And I'll put it into the what's old is new again category as well, right? Cloud has been around for decades. In fact, it kind of started as a diagram icon of a cloud, an architectural diagram, meaning to say there's a whole bunch of complicated technology happening somewhere else. You don't need to be worried about it. Only focus on this part of the architecture. This other stuff happens in the cloud. as we've matured and as the cloud has kind of gone from that concept into, hey, did you know you could move your servers into the cloud, which basically just meant someone else's data center. Now we're seeing the specialization, more and more SaaS offerings, more and more specific cloud offerings, which brings complexity of its own, because now you've got to integrate cloud offerings. So the specialization, I think, is really intriguing. And even our own customers are going through that specialization with our technology, moving from either on-prem to cloud or from one cloud version to another, now managing their enterprise with a specific cloud technology that performs a specific function. So it's interesting to see where that cloud concept and the cloud specialization is going to go to next.
I love it, and I would love to hear from Oriana too, but I'm aware that we are obviously very economical with our listeners' time, and we want to get to one more of Sam's trend predictions before we round the show out. So let's do that. Sam, what is your third and final prediction for 2023?
Yeah, so I was going through kind of the trends that I had outlined, and a lot of them are things that we've discussed on the podcast. But it occurred to me that when you were talking about kind of our batting average and whether some of these trends come true or not, one thing that I would like to get everyone's thoughts on, because if you do a little research and you read kind of about the trends and predictions for the coming year, there's one thing that everybody talks about, and it's one that I'm a little bit skeptical on. So I would love to get people's thoughts, and that is this topic of the metaverse and immersive technology and how it is going to make its impact on kind of the workplace. We've been talking about it for years, but we've seen over the last year or so, a lot of big companies like Microsoft, they've developed these immersive technology platforms, whether you like using the word metaverse or not, specifically for collaborating on digital communication in the workplace. We've seen, like Microsoft Teams, I believe, is going to have some of these technologies integrated and stuff. So I figured we could finish on more of a fun one and more of a kind of topic for debate, whether when you guys are kind of talking to people in the industry and reading up on these immersive metaverse technologies, I would love to get people's thoughts on, do you actually think that this is going to be something that the average digital workplace like ours is impacted by, or do you think it's something that there's a little bit of kind of smoke and mirrors in terms of the actual impact it's going to have on day-to-day work?
Quite. So when will we be recording the first Reality Bytes in a virtual jungle setting?
I'll be short. Then turn it over to the others. I think it crashes like crypto. I'm skeptical as well, especially in enterprise IT.
We'll be playing this back to you, Tim. We'll be playing this back.
Maybe in 5 years, maybe in 10, but right now I think it goes the way of crypto.
We are not ready yet for it today, so I will agree with Tim a little bit. However, I think there is a future for it. It's not going to replace the human interaction, the face-to-face meetings and the in the same room brainstorming, etc. However, it could be a good option for remote and for some of the events that needs to take place, like virtual events, etc. But not yet.
Yes. Oriana, final word. Are you going?
I'm agreeing with Tim. No, I think it's actually more than smoke and mirrors. I think it's more of a smoke screen. I think that, and I will say this as a lifelong gamer who loves virtual spaces. I'm very much into immersive online experiences, but I think people fundamentally misunderstand the user experience problems of applying this type of technology to the workplace, and also what it is people need from collaborative spaces. And I think I've seen some really great innovation in collaboration, but it's actually heading in the opposite direction, because what people need isn't, 3D avatars. What people need is seamless workflows. And that's actually going in the opposite direction. It's about simplifying. It's about removing all of the flashbang, showy stuff that actually impedes effective collaboration, because it really highlights the distance, right? This kind of interaction that we're having now, it feels like a natural conversation. I love talking to you guys. Why? Because there's not anything getting in the way of it. And I think that's really where collaboration technology is headed.
That's very cool. I actually had a text from a very, very good old friend of mine on Christmas Day who had just set up his nephew's VR setup, and he was like, "This is the future. This is absolutely terrifying." he'd never seen it before. Oriana, do you have like a headset? How immersive do you get when you're gaming?
I do, and I actually have VR. I do play VR games as well as on just a PC, and I will say that I'm coming at this as somebody who's really into games as like a medium, an art form, and I have a lot of feelings about this, you may have noticed.
Cool.
And one of the things I notice is that the games that are really successful work with the medium, not against it. And until people really think about what does this medium add and what does it not add, we're not going to make a lot of progress, because people keep trying to replicate the 3D world into a virtual space,
Right.
and it's not the same, right? It's different. It requires different considerations that I think aren't leading the conversation right now. So until we really shift that conversation into what does this medium add, rather than how can we force our current conceptions into that medium, we're not going to make a lot of progress in that space.
Fascinating. So a pretty cautionary note overall around VR. It's going to crash like crypto, to put it in a nutshell. That is our bold going out on a limb prediction, and that's what we should be doing, people. Sam, thank you so much for bringing those, mate. They were all really, really interesting ones to discuss. Looking forward to seeing the new ebook.
Thanks, Tom. Yeah, happy to share. I was going to say any sports fans that are online might know of there's a Twitter account called Old Takes Exposed that likes to pull up these types of predictions in the sports world and point the finger at people who got it disastrously wrong. So hopefully we can avoid that type of ridicule come 2024.
No publicity is bad publicity, people. Better to be very wrong than a little bit right. But we will see how things transpire. Listen, thank you all so much. Fantastic insights, great conversation. Thank you for joining us again for the resumption after our short break of Reality Bytes and indeed the DEX show at large. We've already had our first show of the year, as I mentioned last week, a special focus on healthcare and digital employee experience. We're going to have a new DEX show next week, and then Reality Bytes is going to be back the week after that. And as I've already said at the top of the show, coming very soon are going to be some exciting new developments, some fresh faces, some fresh voices, some fresh ideas into this show. We hope you enjoy them and join us for the remainder of the year. Just remains for me to say, of course, Happy New Year to our listeners, and Happy New Year once more to you all.
Happy New Year!
To make sure that you never miss an episode, subscribe to the show in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast player. And if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, make sure to leave a rating of the show. Just tap the number of stars you think the podcast deserves. If you'd like to learn more about how NextThink can help you improve your digital employee experience, head over to nextthink.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.